Registered Phenomena Code 827. Object Class Omega Purple. Hazard Types: Sensory Hazard, Visual Hazard, Auditory Hazard, Info Hazard, Extra-dimensional Hazard, Incorporeal Hazard, Sapient Hazard. Containment Protocols. Containment is currently impossible for RPC-827. Any locations affected by RPC-827 are to be quarantined, cordoned off, or completely purged if necessary. Events linked to RPC-827 are to be erased from public record and properly resolved. Any manifestations of the anomaly are to be neutralized and disposed of ASAP. Any individual claiming to know about RPC-827 is to be detained, questioned, and taken into containment. Class A amnestics are to be administered as soon as questioning is finished. Refer to MST X-Ray 6 operational commanders for further information. Due to the infrequency and random nature of RPC-827 manifestations, an MST has been formed specifically to respond quickly to its unique manifestations. MST Uniform 06, Dreamwalkers, is to be contacted as soon as any RPC-827 manifestations are detected. Additionally, if RPC-827 is to compromise an Authority research facility, immediate emergency site termination protocol is to be initiated. Description: RPC-827 is a phenomenon metaphysical in nature, deemed more of a concept than an actual tangible being, colloquially known as Phobos by most Authority staff. It was first discovered at the research facility of Site-007 by a staff member recalling a nightmare from the previous night, recounted in the transcript file below. Dr. Jacob's dream. Well, it was definitely bizarre for many reasons. For starters, I don't have many dreams, let alone lucid ones. I've taken training against mimetic effects as well, so I should be able to know when I am in a dream or under the effects of a mimetic hazard. However, in this dream, I had no clue. I remember I was in a field, or opening in a forest of some sort, at night. The grass was about waist high, and the moon was full, so I could still see mostly everything. As I walked, it seemed like the grass bowed away from me, you know when a helicopter is above grass, and the rotation of the blades moves the grass in all directions away from it? That, exactly that, is what was happening to the grass around me as I walked. As I got closer to the forest edge, I saw a figure standing in the brush. It was tall. Lord was it tall. I'd say it was about 10 feet at least. It was mostly a silhouette, so I could only make out a few details. Dr. Jacobs stopped responding. After his account, Dr. Jacobs had a breakdown at the recollection of what he saw of RPC-827. He is now in psychological care. RPC-827 is consistently linked to dreams. The victims will recount vivid or lucid dreams. Additionally, the vast majority of the anomalous incidents take place during the night, leading researchers to believe that RPC-827 has to do with the subconscious in some way or another. Additional encounters worth noting. May 10, 1998. 33 missing from Michigan nursing home. From May 10, 1998 to May 17, 1998, a nursing home in Michigan experienced 33 disappearances of elderly patients without a trace. Authorities were notified of these disappearances and naturally decided to investigate. They questioned all the staff and some of the elderly and found that almost all the non-senile elderly were having odd, recurring dreams. Detectives found it even weirder when they all described having roughly the same dream, with a few deviations in detail. They would dream that they awoke in the middle of the night to see a tall black figure standing in the corner of the room, staring at them with glowing white eyes. They said that this dream would seemingly go on for hours, only for them to wake up in the morning, completely fine and well rested. Authorities quickly phoned up the FBI, who phoned up the Authority, and an Authority research team was dispatched to monitor the nursing home. In the middle of the night, at exactly midnight, one of the elderly rose out of his bed and walked out of his room. He stepped out into the hallway and stared directly into the camera before turning and heading down the hallway to the very far end, where he started to walk down the stairs. When the researcher, who was assigned to night watch, switched to the staircase camera, he said that the old man seemed to take a single step down from the third-level staircase, all the way down to the first level, his leg extended and bent to inhuman lengths. He continued on the very far hallway, down until he reached the washing room. He moved the washing machine to the side to reveal a large black hole that led down. He slid into it without hesitation, and slid the washing machine back into place behind him. The Night Watch researcher radioed in for an MST team to come in for backup. The MST followed to the hole where the old man descended, and lowered him one at a time. It appears that there was an unfinished basement left behind underneath the home. It was a large and bare brick room with an unfinished floor and dirty walls. On the walls, there appeared to be scribbles, some of ink, some of blood, and some of what appeared to be feces. Most of it was incoherent, but one phrase was repeated and very clear, the one that earned RPC-827 its nickname, Phobos. On the other side of the basement was a single door, the only door in the room actually. MST Uniform 06 made their way across the room to the door. As soon as they entered breaching position, they heard a quiet and uniform whispering, almost like a chant. Yet it was too quiet to transcribe what they were chanting. MST Uniform 06 opened the door, and filed in to be greeted by the sight of a room very similar to the one they just left, except all 33 missing elderly were in the room, standing against the walls, alive somehow. Their eyes were gouged out, their arms were missing, and their jaws had been torn off. The whispering stopped, and all the elderly collectively turned to look directly at MST Uniform 06. In the center of the room stood the old man that had gone missing that night. He held his intestines in his hand. His jaw was elongated, and his head was covered in eyes, later discovered to be the eyes of all the other elderly, and his arms were long and rope-like, as described by MST Uniform 06 Captain. He broke into a sprint at MST Uniform 06, as did all the other elderly, but they were quickly gunned down by an onslaught of gunfire, at the cost of one MST casualty. 2003. Population of Arizona town found dead. In 2003, a small town in western Arizona was found with all inhabitants dead by a couple that was on their honeymoon. They called the local authorities, who subsequently called the FBI, who subsequently called the Department of Homeland Security, who subsequently called the Authority. The Authority sent in a team of researchers to figure out what happened. When they arrived, they immediately noted that all the deaths seemed to be self-inflicted. All of them. Babies had turned over in their cribs. Desk clerks had stabbed themselves in the throat with pencils. People in their cars had driven into each other. Some people had thrown themselves face first into the fountain and drowned. Every single death was a suicide, and seemingly a quick one. At the hospital was where they found the one survivor. Everyone else at the hospital was also dead except for him. They either pulled their plugs if they were on life support, tore out IVs, slit their throats with scalpels, or just slammed their head into the wall until their skull caved in. The one survivor was in the psych ward in a padded room and straitjacket. When questioned, he just kept saying the same thing, over and over again. It was in my head. It was in my head. It was in my head. He appeared to be in a catatonic state, and is currently in the Authority psych ward. Addendum: Dr. Jacob. Dr. Jacob was released from the psych ward on November 31st of 2004. He promptly resigned from the Authority, only a year after on January 25th, 2006, due to a mental health risk. Going by protocol, he was given Class A amnestics and assigned to a new life. He was under temporary surveillance, and he seemed to be behaving completely normally. It was quickly brought to the Authority's attention that he was shot and killed by police 2 years after his release. Dr. Jacob was convicted of homicide, with 7 accounts of murder. Naturally, MST investigation teams were sent to his home to investigate, just in case there had been a reason for his psychological snap. In his basement was a hidden room, covered in newspaper clippings from all around of various events, ranging from disappearances, lesser calamities, murders, and even stock market graphs. The word Phobos was written on the walls everywhere. A journal was found under his bed, where he detailed that the amnestics given to him upon release were faulty, at least to the point where he remembers his dream, and the odd events of New Mexico and Michigan. He quickly became obsessed with figuring out his past, and who or what Phobos is. Addendum. Note from Head Researcher. So, we still don't know what Phobos is, but we have 3 prevailing theories. It's either an entity that appears in dreams, a being beyond our comprehension, or a psychological tick that appears in individuals or populations if the circumstances are just right. Whatever it is, further research is needed before we can do anything about it. Researcher Johnson, Head Researcher on RPC-827.